Are you good, Matt? Okay, we've moved back into open session. Council's wishes.
Given advice from officials, I would like to move that we reconsider the motion to not appoint someone to the governance committee for the CMRB.
Discussion on reconsideration. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. So then the next order of business would be a vote on the motion to appoint to the governance committee.
I move that we appoint Amber Link to the governance committee.
Could I ask that we also include Scott Clausen as alternate? If you would consider a friendly amendment.
Yes, I would consider that a friendly amendment.
Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. CMRB Intermunicipal Servicing and Land Use Committee. I would move that Deputy Reeve Clausen sit on the committee. I shouldn't have made the motion.
Can I make a motion?
Sorry?
Make a motion to cross that off? Prior to it.
Oh.
Believe you did.
Was there a motion? Is it Margaret or
I
Shannon?
think there was a motion not to send anyone, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe
We should have addressed that. My apologies. We'll address it now. And it was a motion to not appoint to the Joint Land Use and Servicing Committee. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, or motion is defeated, sorry. Sorry. Council's wishes.
I'll move that Deputy Reeve Scott Clausen sit on the Land Use and Servicing Committee with Amber Link as alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move to Central Zone RMA District 2. Typically, I attend the Mayors and Reeves meeting, or sometimes it's called the Directors meeting. Those are usually prior to the spring and fall general meeting. At those meetings, we review the potential resolutions that may come forward to the district meeting, kind of share feedback to give municipalities direction on their resolution development. And then typically the Central Zone meetings, all councillors are available to attend. We probably should have a resolution for that as well.
yeah, we can just make those as they come because they do come twice annually.
So you would rather do it just when they're scheduled?
We could do it now.
Okay. If we do it now, it's probably just easier, then we don't have to think.
Sure.
Like just, it's one less thing to think about.
Okay.
So perhaps 2 resolutions for consideration. Possible consideration could be Reeve to attend the Mayors and Reeves meetings with Deputy Reeve as alternate. And then perhaps consideration of a second resolution for all of council to attend the district zone meetings.
I'll make that motion.
One, both?
Both of them?
Both of them? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Move to Community Futures Wild Rose. I have been sitting on this. I would ask that council might consider reappointing me to the committee. We've lost several of our long-term board members through the election and through other organizational meetings. I think we only have to double check my numbers. I think it's 6 returning board members out of 15, and I do chair this committee. So with council support, I would request reappointment. And then I believe Councillor Bigger sat as our alternate.
I can make that motion.
Appoint myself with Councillor
Councillor
Bigger
Bigger
as
as alternate.
alternate. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Drumheller and District Solid Waste Management Association.
I would be interested in being part of that committee.
Anybody else?
Being that it's close to him, it'd probably be more beneficial for him to be there. I could be an alternate.
Geographically, it just
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know, do we have an alternate for that one?
I don't think.
One counselor, no.
I have Clausen as alternate.
There is an
That was my
alternate on the
appointment too.
Drumheller.
Yeah, trying to help out in the last, just for carryover. So I have some documents for you too. But yeah, I mean, it's always in Drumheller, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's fine.
Should we appoint an alternate?
I would, just to be consistent. However, I do believe Councillor Laprise also had something to say.
I think she just said she saw Scott as the alternate
Yeah.
on the historical. It was, if I heard
That's
you
exactly
correctly.
what I was bringing up, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
A motion,
Scott, do you want to be alternate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine, yeah.
council's wishes.
I'll move that Councillor Larson sits as representative on Drumheller and District Solid Waste Management with Deputy Reeve Clausen as alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We did have a previous motion to dissolve the Economic Development Board. Would you like a motion to remove it? You don't need one. Emergency Management Committee. This is a very minimal time commitment. We do have a requirement to hold one meeting a year, I believe. Is that correct, CAO Henderson? With the committee?
Yes, that's correct.
Typically, we've had the Reeve sit and Deputy Reeve sits as alternate. It's literally one meeting a year. It's very brief, but it is a requirement to hold it, so.
I would be interested if one of you doesn't want to be on. But
I would like to sit on it if you would consider sitting as alternate.
yeah, that's fine.
I do believe it's even one councillor.
Reeve and one councillor.
Yeah.
Oh, it's two people that
Yes,
sit on it?
yeah.
Oh, I thought it was one. Sorry, I'll get there. Oh, yeah, okay. Perfect.
I'll make the motion that Emergency Management Committee consists of Amber Link and Mr. Larson. Or Lark, did I say it right?
How come I got the Mr. and she didn't get Ms.?
Sorry.
I'm just bugging you.
He's testing your name. Do you want to say your last name one more time for us?
Lowerson.
Lowerson.
I stand corrected, Larson.
You're not the first one.
My apologies, I think I mispronounced it.
We will all do our best to remember. Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Growth Management Board Rural Caucus. Typically, we have always met at both CMRB conventions. It's basically the rural representatives from the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board and the Calgary Metropolitan Region Board. We've met to discuss issues specific to rural municipalities in the growth management boards, at times like some tactical discussions around strategy, sharing of information. The EMRB is somewhat ahead of the CMRB in terms of process because the Capital Region Board existed far before the Calgary Region Board existed. There was the CRP. It is really valuable. RMA also attends that and does gather like the rural perspective and some advocacy direction from those meetings as well. I would like to continue attending those, and I think it would be great if Scott could sit as alternate, just to ensure that we always have representation there. There is at times more than one meeting. We typically do meet at both the spring and fall RMA conventions, and there has been a couple of times where we have called a meeting outside of there, particularly with sort of our tendency to have more virtual meetings when there's been significant issues that have arose. Council's wishes.
I'll move that Reeve Link represent on Growth Management Board with Deputy Reeve Clausen as alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Yeah.
Brian, would you prefer we do the IDP ICFs after, or should we move to them now?
We could do it now. So just for information, well, actually, Matt could explain these better, but we kind of set these up last year, and we just do it by divisionals. And realistically, it is for the councillors who are closest to the neighboring municipalities that we do need these agreements with. So geographically, it made the most sense to administration and previous council.
So there is a recommendation there. We do have an outstanding resolution. You'll see it on Brian's councillor tracker on page 31, just around, we have a resolution directing the Siksika sort of IDP and ICF committee to work on a memorandum of understanding with Siksika Nation. That had been delayed a couple of times due to COVID, particularly on Nation when COVID numbers were escalating. Their council sometimes has more hands-on roles that they take during situations like that, and as well just from sort of being prudent to run meeting in person. Those were delayed. We also did have a resolution allowing me to attend. It's typically a monthly meeting with the town of Strathmore and Siksika Nation. They've been meeting, they do have a memorandum of understanding, and they've been meeting monthly. They did invite us to join them. I believe that resolution was only until today. So I wouldn't mind council consideration renewing that to continue attending those meetings. Some of them, they look at, I can circulate the terms of reference for the meetings, but they look at things from employment, business kind of considerations, education, recreation. An example of one thing that they're looking at is policy in the town of Strathmore recreation facilities around racist comments that might be made, and if there are consequences to those within those facilities. I have had a couple of ratepayers raise some fairly pointed concerns just around building relationships with Siksika Nation and issues with racism and things like that. And as well, previous council had developed an excellent relationship with Siksika Nation Chief and Council. We had a few opportunities to meet in person and to spend some time just discussing practical ways that we can work together. One item that arose out of that was a joint letter with the Village of Arrowwood, Vulcan County, Wheatland County, and Siksika Nation sent a 4-party letter to the Ministry of Transportation regarding 2 single-lane bridges on Nation that other, like the ratepayers in Wheatland County, for example, would use for agricultural purposes, moving grain, that type of thing, and the other municipalities as well. That's why it was a joint letter. So there could be practical things that could arise like that. I'm trying to think. The MOU would be sort of the main work that I would hope to see come out of that IDP and ICF committee. So the current composition is Reeve, Deputy Reeve, with the alternate being Councillor Bigger, because much of her division also borders Siksika Nation, or is like closest in proximity. The rest, essentially, they will only be stood up, and administration can correct me if I'm wrong, when review of IDP or ICF is required, or if there were amendments requested, things like that, or disputes, right? Regarding like development on borders or shared servicing, things like that.
So just through the REEV, yep, absolutely. So the intermunicipal committee is called if there's significant changes to any of those. If we need to revisit exactly shared services within the ICF, the intermunicipal committee is called, and administration takes the lead on organizing that and coordinating between both municipalities. So that's kind of the process for that right now.
And those procedures are outlined as well in our IDPs and ICFs with the municipalities, and those committees are referenced in those documents. So it is important that we keep them standing. They don't meet on a regular basis, only when required.
Exactly.
Yeah, with the exception of Siksika until we have that MOU in place.
Correct.
Myself, I have no issues with the way this is set up here. The Strathmore one with Siksika, I'm trying to say this politically correctly, scope creep is what I would say. Because I've attended some, and some of it goes to human rights issues and things that is way out of the mandate of a municipal councillor. That's all I'm going to say. It gets into a realm that we don't have the powers to do that. So, as long as it sticks within what we can do and how we can work together, I'm fine with it, but there's some stuff that just goes way off.
Yeah, and fair comments. I would be responsible, obviously, if there was council support to continue attending, to report back to council the activities from those meetings, any issues that arise or any actions that would be relevant to Wheatland County, and bring those back for consideration of council. No commitments, or we've been very clear when you've attended, we've been very clear that anything that we would be committing to, we would be bringing back to council for consideration.
So if everyone is in agreement with the list that's in front of us, I will move that the IDP, ICF be accepted as presented.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We would need a separate resolution if there is council support for the Town of Strathmore and Siksika Nation meetings. Because that resolution ended, I think it was until today, right? Until the organizational meeting?
I'd have to re-review that, but we can re-review and bring it back to council for a future meeting.
Okay. Marigold Library Committee. I would like to continue sitting on this board if it's council's will.
I was the alternative, and I would be willing to give that up.
I would sit as alternate.
Awesome. Anybody else interested in sitting or as alternate? Motion, perhaps?
I'll make the motion that Reeve Link and
Councillor Laprise?
I need my glasses.
Laprise.
Councillor Laprise sit on the board and the Marigold Library Board a committee as alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. SEWA, Southern Alberta Energy Municipal Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion that all council members belong to the MPC.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association.
I would be willing to sit on that.
If there's an alternate, I'd like to do that. I don't know.
The notes do say may consist of up to 2 councillors and 1 alternate. I don't know if you... I know we did just have 1 attend and we had 1 alternate.
Yeah, and the reason I thought it would be good is Ben said that there's some direct correlation with the Drumheller Waste Management and say, well,
Makes sense.
Would you like to attend or sit as alternate?
I could, whatever council's wishes, I could attend and carry some information over to help.
yes, I think that might be good since you're going to take that Alberta Care one, because I
Yep.
think there's some synergies between those two as well.
Possibly, yeah.
So you want them listed as 2 councillors?
Yeah, might as well.
I'll move that Councillor Larson and Councillor Clausen sit on SEWA.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. The seed cleaning plants, we typically just have the councillor of the area sit on the boards. We just need a motion indicating that.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Kester has moved. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Strathmore District Egg Society Indoor Riding Arena Advisory Committee.
I'd be interested in sitting on that one. Nope,
Doesn't even ride a horse.
I don't have a horse. I'm impartial that way.
Is anybody else interested in sitting on that?
I sat on it before because it was in my division, so I'd like to sit there as well, but if Tom wants to go, I'm fine with that.
Did you guys have an alternate before?
I don't think so.
I think I might have been the
Might have
I
alternate.
think
Yeah, you were.
Councillor Wilson had been.
Oh, Councillor Wilson was, yes. Do you want to sit? Do you want an election or voting?
No, I'm okay if Tom does it.
Do you want to sit as alternate?
Sure.
Thank you.
A motion to such effect?
I'll move that Councillor Eichert sit on the Strathmore District Egg Society as Scott Clausen as the alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Move to Strathmore Wheatland District Chamber of Commerce.
I sit on this committee currently, but I feel that I have a fairly full-time job coming in the spring for 4 months, so I would like to step down. I planned on, my biggest goal was to get Wheatland more involved. They definitely are more involved, so we need, I promised someone that would, it's a working board for sure. So I promised I would make sure someone was very enthusiastic about going on it. It's a very enthusiastic group. But I'm stepping down. Because the meetings are during the day.
Well, I would sit on that board if.
Wonderful. Anyone else interested?
I'll move that Councillor, was anyone else? I'll move that Councillor Laprise sit on the Strathmore Wheatland District Chamber of Commerce.
All in favor?
Oh, there was an alternate.
I can sit as the alternate if you want.
Okay.
Friendly amendment to your motion?
Yep.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you to both of you. And Donna, thank you for your work on that. We do appreciate it. There's been huge integration of Wheatland into the whole chamber. So it's
It may be the only board I didn't dissolve.
Good work. Efficiencies.
awesome. Exactly, that's right. Strathmore Handy Bus Association.
I'm going to, for pecuniary interest, I will be excusing myself for the vote. Handy Bus Matters.
Okay.
And I will check on lunch.
We'll grab you as soon as we're done.
You could just break for lunch. I'll already be ahead of you.
Nope, we're going to keep going.
I believe there is some additional information in the package on the handy bus. So the handy bus, I believe they're changing the structure of their board. I just have to find the page in the package that the information was in there. Oops, sorry.
Can we table this particular organizational? Because the way that letter is, there's no point in us being on the board. We can ask somebody, we can just request written minutes of the board, because it's a complete and utter waste of time. If that's the way they want to do it, if we're on
Page
that board
64.
and then we
Page
have
64.
no say on the board, then I'm just wondering if we can table that until they tell us exactly what they Because the way that letter is written, there's no point in us being on that board.
So we have, during this organizational meeting, chose not to send a representative to the board, and we could just make a resolution after the fact to send a member, if that's council's wishes and desires.
I do agree with the current structure. I think it would be more efficient just to request monthly reports if they are making this the format of the board. If the board format were to change, I would support at that time appointing a member to the board if they were to have a governance role.
I will make a motion that we request minutes of the meeting. We will not be sending a board member, and if they change the composition of their board, then we will address it at a later date.
Do you want minutes and financial statements, or just minutes?
I would assume that
I would ask for whatever reports they would, like just
I will ask for any reports that
they're willing to
Yeah.
share.
Yeah.
Just a question about this. Does this handy bus, because I don't know much about it, does it serve strictly Strathmore, or does it serve the surrounding, like, will they go to Standard, for example? They will, okay. So I guess, just explain to me why you think we don't need anybody?
Historically, we had a voting seat on the board. We were full board members. It looks like under the correspondence from Ms. Vandervelde that they're looking at changing page 64.
It's on the computer.
They have newly developed bylaws, which it sounds like they'll be presenting at their AGM for ratification.
Under the, keep going, yeah. And the reason I'm, like, there should be no reason we spend our money sending a counselor, which is going to cost a per diem, to do something that is just basically, you're just going to rubber stamp, you're just going to.
There's no deciding. It was just
Exactly
to.
so.
Information only.
Yeah, and I think we are better served by just having their reports written, and we can read the reports here or at our leisure. That is the reason.
That makes sense.
The specific change in policy is on page 69, where they're now referencing appointed members from the Town Council and Wheatland County Council to attend to be informed of the financial and operational status of the association. Just indicating that the appointee may request to speak to a subject on the agenda. And then there was a second spot. Maybe it was just in the letter itself. Oh, it was, I thought it was in the documents provided, but it's just in the letter on page 64. It said our meetings at present to the third Thursday of the month, and your appointed counselor would be able to attend the, in brackets, general meeting from 10:30 to 12 noon to observe and report back to council. We will not be discussing any operation business at this time. The appointed council member must be present at the meeting. My computer just died. Apparently, I should have had it replaced on Friday because it just crashed.
It goes on to say it must be present at the meetings to obtain the information. So I don't know, can we request?
I think we can still request.
Their minutes are public, and aren't they? They should be.
Some are, it depends on.
I'm not quite sure. I'd have to find out. We could make a request, and if we can't obtain those reports, we could appoint a council at a future council meeting as well.
So we have a motion on the floor to not appoint a representative at this time, but to send correspondence requesting that reports be sent to council for council consideration. Was that your motion?
That is my
Or did I
motion.
miss part of it?
No, that's my, I'm just trying to figure out if we should mention that if the board makeup changes at that point, we will address said, no, we don't need to do that? Okay, then it's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to revisit just to confirm that at the AGM, they do ratify the changes that they have sent to us. But we'll be requesting updates, I think. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Tom, oh, Tracy's going to grab Scott. Strathmore Wheatland Addiction Team, known as SWAT, is basically a drug and addiction task force. It's been in flux. There was some thought to disband, but then there was very strong support for it, particularly from Alberta Health Services, Wheatland Youth Network, and a couple of those organizations. Gleason and Strathmore RCMP have both committed to attending on a go forward. There has been challenges with sort of presenting activities and doing some of the, especially kind of public activities, particularly during COVID, but even prior to COVID, there were some challenges just with engagement. I feel like having the Wheatland Youth Network involved because they have a very young, like a younger person who is, and I won't get her title right, but she's like the executive director or kind of the primary director for that organization, very in touch with youth, what the issues are, and how we can be most effective. And this is one if somebody else is interested or has a passion for. I'm happy I have sat on this. I'm happy for somebody else to sit on it if you have an interest or a passion in addictions. The focus is supposed to be evidence-based, so really looking at what is effective, and that can include focus on sort of more proactive activities. So one activity we did was like a family bucket for like games, and it had conversation starters and very inexpensive and kind of open things like dice and cards and stuff like that, with some instructions in a bucket that went out to families through the school, through students in the school. And that was to focus some of that preventative connectivity and attachment and some of those things that can impact addictions long term. There's also been speaker series. There's an addictions week being planned by a subcommittee for in November, including some naloxone training sessions, both virtually and in person, where naloxone kits will be available and pharmacists will be available to kind of explain how to utilize them, answer questions around like, can you store it in your vehicle? Will that make it ineffective? Things like that, like practical information for people. The town of Strathmore does have a representative, as well as they have several staff that attend as well from FCSS, their Indigenous liaison, from their enforcement services. Like I said, there's also AHS, Wheatland Youth Network. Golden Hills School Division has a representative, and I know the Christ Redeemer School Division is also open to doing some programming with the group.
I'd be interested in sitting on that.
That would be wonderful. Anybody else interested?
Do you have alternates for that?
There was.
I could sit as alternate if somebody else would like to.
I can too.
You would sit as alternate?
I just thought if they probably meet in Strathmore most of the time, though.
We typically actually meet here.
I can be the alternate because you'll probably make most of the stuff.
That'd be awesome.
Yep.
A motion to that effect? Council's wishes?
I'll move that Councillor Laprise will go into SWAT as a representative and Councillor Larson as alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. WC Infinite Possibilities and Business Collaboration.
Here's another one I was on that probably isn't relevant anymore. We haven't, it was one of the executive director officer that was here earlier had these during COVID for businesses. They were very advantageous, but we haven't had one for quite a while. And unless you pick it up again, I'm not sure.
So just through the Reeve, to Councillor Bigger's statement, we will be there.
Okay.
We do intend to. It's just a matter of, getting everything sorted and situated. Now, they might not be as frequent because certainly COVID would play a factor, but yeah, we do intend to have some calls and gather and even do in-person seminars in the future.
Okay.
So
on those calls, we invited either a speaker, like the president of ATB, what's his name from tourism?
Todd Hirsch.
Todd Hirsch was the ATB.
ATB. So, anyway, we've invited different speakers, and plus we'd have roundtable discussions. The government of Alberta was in it. Community Futures. Oh, the list goes on. There was quite a few. The Strathmore Chamber. It was just a collaborative conversation that they would have. They were usually held during the day, and they were usually about an hour and a half. I sat on that because I was with Economic Development. Anyone was welcome to go on it, though, for sure. But it was brought in here just in case someone did go on it for per diem purposes. So if you want it to keep on going, if we're going to keep on going with it, I
wonder if it would
sit
be
on
good for Shannon to liaison, like to connect the chamber, unless you
Chamber,
want
I
to.
was wondering about that, exactly, yeah.
Sure.
I'd be interested, sure.
I frequently would join in just because they were really interesting, and I found it. We heard it was invaluable to some of our business owners in terms of kind of connecting to those provincial supports, letting them know of changes at the county, initiatives the county was pursuing, changes to land use bylaw, changes with economic development, sort of as the strategy was being implemented, things like that. And even just to have that connection between business and council, I think is really good.
And I would just speak at the beginning of the meeting and welcome everybody and give any changes, any updates that we had at the county. I'll sit as an alternate if you want.
That would be great. A motion to that effect?
I'll move that Councillor Laprise sit on WC Infinite and myself as alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Wheatland and Adjacent District Emergency Medical Services Association, aka WDEMSA.
I would like to speak or be on that committee. I got to speak better is what I'm saying.
Councillor Kester's interested. I believe we have 2 appointments
2 appointments,
and an alternate.
alternate.
I'm also on that committee, and we are both on the negotiation committee. So I'd be willing to stay on that too. We still haven't negotiated anything.
Who sat as alternate?
I think Scott.
That's what I have on this sheet from 2020, 2021.
You would like somebody else to sit
Somebody
as
else can
alternate?
sit as alternate, I'd be fine with that.
Who else is interested?
I can sit as alternate for that.
Thank you. Is anybody else interested? A motion to that effect? Anyone? Well, we need to appoint the members and alternate.
Okay, well, why don't we just have a friendly amendment that I'll
Oh,
sit
did
as
we have a
alternate?
motion?
Because we
No,
have.
I don't think we
Oh, I
have.
thought you made them, okay.
No,
Then I'm
no, I
going to
didn't.
move that Councillor Laprise be the,
Kester?
sorry?
Kester.
It's
Kester, sorry.
Yeah.
And
Councillor Bigger?
Councillor Bigger be the two representatives, and that I'll be the alternate.
Perfect.
It's easy to confuse those two.
LaPreeze, Castor.
Questions or discussion?
I made the comparison, not me.
All in favor? Motion is carried. WFCSS.
I would like to be on that again.
I would like to be on, oh, sorry.
Need to.
Yep. You were interested as
Yeah,
well, though?
I've been on it too.
I'd be happy to be as an alternate or whatever.
Donna, do you want it to sit again?
I would.
You guys want a nominate, like an secret ballot, or Councillor LaPriest, would you like to sit as alternate?
I'll sit as alternate.
Okay. Anybody else interested? A motion to that effect?
I'll move that WFCSS appoint Councillor Kester and Councillor Bigger as sitting members and Councillor LaPriest as alternate.
That we appoint those members to WFCSS?
I said that first.
You said WFCSS appoint, so I was
No,
just...
to a WFCSS. Yeah.
Perfect. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. I think we're going to break here for lunch. It's 11:59. We'll break for 45 minutes.
I think lunch is going to be here at 12:10.
Oh, okay. Well, we can keep going then. Okay.
We can finish.
Wheatland Housing Management Body.
I would like to be on that board again. Need 3.
3 councillors, 1 alternate.
I'd like to go on that.
I can go on that too.
I believe we had Councillor Bigger and Councillor Eichert. Are either of you still interested in sitting? Or are you happy to turn over to Councillor
I'm
LaPriest?
okay to turn it over.
I'd be interested in sitting.
Okay. We have 4 interested. Scott? 4 interested. We could secret ballot.
Yes, that would be the voting procedure.
So we have Councillor LaPriest, Councillor Kester, Councillor Eichert, Councillor Lowerson. And we
how
will
many
be voting for
positions?
3.
3. 3 and 4.
Anybody
Done
else?
really well. My goal was to cut down on my coffees.
Oh,
So I've done really well. I've done really well.
You've done well.
Yes, I had to cut back. It's getting them all confused.
so are we writing how many?
Choose 3.
Choose 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Let me just
Thanks,
confirm
Brad.
that.
And myself.
Sorry, you have to tell me again who all it was.
Yourself, Glenn, Rick, and Tom.
On top.
So there would be 4, make 3 slots.
It's 18%, baby. That?
It's good for you. It fuels your brain.
That's right, exactly. Keto.
Yeah.
Keto, baby. I'd ask for 36%, but whipping cream's a little bit overkill.
That's what's in here.
Sort of feels like a church.
Donations.
But we always use in our coffee. It's whipping cream.
Sorry?
We use whipping cream in our coffee all the time.
Well, they say that the more cream you have in your system, like, that's part of the problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
you need the fat in your system.
We've moved away from, like, fat was seen as the enemy for so long.
It's pure pressure. So what happened with Handy Bus? We don't have anybody?
We have nobody.
Okay, and just,
We're going to request
We're
reports.
asking for reports.
okay.
Yeah.
Then we'll go from there.
We can't tell you.
Okay.
We can't tell you. No,
I can ask after. I can look on
I know, I'm just joking.
Yeah, it's public information.
I'm getting hungry.
You want some milk with your lunch too?
One of the standing jokes at RMA is around chocolate milk. You guys would die if I told you how much we have to pay Edmonton Convention Center for chocolate milk. But there are councillors who demand their chocolate milk.
Oh, goodness.
We can't bring anything, we can't bring anything in, right? Because you have a contract. That and how much the beef is done is always contentious. It's always either too rare or too well done. We cannot please the rural
Really tough for it to be too
municipalities of Alberta. But we're Alberta.
So Shannon,
Yes.
you have a meeting
rural. I think that
on
rare.
Wednesday?
Easily be too well done.
Donna, if you're able to email it, I'm just going to ask everybody who has meeting shifts, email meeting materials for the next meeting to whoever is taking over.
And then I'll go with you to introduce you.
That's awesome.
That's very nice. Thank you. I
Okay,
appreciate
council, so there was 3 members voted in, so Councillor Laprise, Councillor Eichert, and Councillor Larson.
And then we would have an alternate, usually 3 and 1 alternate. Might make sense.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Would it make sense to have the 4th member that was nominated to sit as alternate?
I believe so, if Glenn would like to let his name stand.
Yeah, I'll stay as alternate.
Wheatland Regional Corporation, 2 representatives. And we had 1 alternate.
I'd like to be on that board again. I was on it when it started. I am the closest member, and it is in my division. And I field lots of calls from my constituents.
Anyone else who's interested in sitting on Wheatland Regional Corporation?
I'd like to as well. This could be going down to 1 board member. It's just, they're in the process of doing that because Hazar left, so it's going to come back to council at some point in the future too. So.
Anybody else interested? Okay. Councillor Kester and Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yeah.
And we did typically have an alternate. Does anybody want to sit as alternate?
I don't think there's a need You think there's a need for an alternate still?
I don't think there really
Because
is.
of, with the change, which I would likely foresee happening, we'll probably have 1 and an alternate, so. But,
Should we, I might want to set an alternate and then
Okay.
if the structure changes, we could remove that for next. Would that be okay?
And I'll stand as the alternate.
Okay. Would anybody else like to sit as alternate? Okay, a motion to that effect? Oh, we need a motion for the housing board.
I
Did
believe.
we do a motion?
Maybe
I don't
for
think
the
we did.
alternate?
Margaret or Shanna, did we do a motion regarding the housing board appointment?
Voted.
Yeah, we,
No, there's no motion.
yeah, we just didn't do a resolution.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we did for the other ones, but
We
you
have.
the.
For each one, we've done a resolution.
Okay.
A motion for the Housing Board first. My apologies.
Who's on? I'll move that Councillor Larson.
Yep.
Yeah, and Councillor Laprise and Councillor Eichert as on to represent the Wheatland Housing Management Board, and Councillor Kester for alternate.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. A motion for Wheatland Regional Corporation.
I'll make a motion that Councillor Kester and Councillor Klassen sit on the Wheatland Regional Corporation with alternate of Councillor Eichert.
Any questions or discussion?
I have one quick question about the committees. Do your alternates vote, or does it change from board to board?
May change from board to board.
Okay.
For example, at Marigold, if you're an officially appointed alternate, I believe I'd have to check our bylaws. You can vote, but there are boards where it is like they have specifically appointed board members that would have
It's always
voting rights.
discussion at
The best is always to look at that board or committee's bylaws,
Okay.
because it would be explicit. If it's not explicit, typically an alternate would be permitted to vote because they're there in your capacity, like in the
Still work voted
appointee's
in.
capacity.
Okay, thank you.
And just a resolution appointing all of council to Wheatland Regional Partnership Committee.
We didn't vote the last one.
Oh, sorry. No, we didn't.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Wheatland Regional Corporation? All in favor? Motion is carried. And now Wheatland Regional Partnership Committee. Regional Partnership Committee.
I move that all councillors be appointed to the Wheatland Regional Partnership Committee.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Now that seems like a good time to break.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
I believe in previous organizationals, I just was looking here, there was a counselor of the area for fire association.
Yes, so we removed that one off the list, and that not being that you can't go, it's just that it was kind of a common knowledge that councillors can meet with their volunteer fire departments. You can go to those meetings. There was no meetings that were set by administration. It was kind of just the associations and or departments were just kind of doing them.
Ad hoc type.
Ad hoc, yes, yeah. So nothing to do with us, and we encourage all councillors to meet with their associations and departments, check out things, check out the halls, and go from there.
Big donuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bring them, yeah.
I'm going to call a recess until 1 o'clock, and I do just need to go in. My apologies.
And Ellen's in red.